Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm with everybody's favorite vet, Dr. Zoe, and we are back at Countryside Veterinary Services, and we have Jule with us. And if you remember if you've been following me, if you'll remember about 3 months ago, Zoe came out to the farm to give the girls their annual vaccines, and I had talked about the possibility of breeding Jule to a blue roan Brabant.
He's a good-looking buddy.
When Zoe came out, I told you that she was going to explain what following the mare was, because prior to the video, Zoe and I had discussed the possibility of breeding her and what was going to be involved in breeding her. And Zoe talked about that what we needed to do, since neither of us knew the horse, was to follow her. And she explained that in great detail. So on the second video, I brought her back up here and we did a baseline or an initial ultrasound to figure out where we were. And in that video, Zoe explained everything that was going on in the ultrasound. If you missed those videos, both of those videos are going to be linked to the back of this video. So subsequently, we have done 3 additional ultrasounds, and today is going to be the 5th ultrasound.
Yes.
So today will be the 5th ultrasound. So Zoe is going to talk and tell you about what she found in the ultrasounds subsequently and why we decided to do what we did in the timeline that we did it, because we have since taken her to Alabama and bred her with that blue roan Brabant, and now we have her back. And so today is the day that we find out if she's pregnant or not, but we have to get the backstory of how we got to that point. So can you help us understand what you saw and why we did the timeline that we did?
Yeah, sure. So the first repro check that we did on Jule was on March 14th, and that was just us kind of scanning the uterus and the ovaries and making sure everything is present and accounted for, and there didn't seem like there was anything out of the ordinary. She did have maybe 2 cysts in the uterine body, which is not abnormal for a mare that is her age, but they were not large or poorly placed in the uterus, and so I thought, let's just keep going. I'm sure she can carry a pregnancy with that. So she also looked like she had started to cycle somewhat normally. And so I said to David, I was like, why don't you bring her back in 2 weeks? Well, at that initial time, she had a 40 millimeter follicle. And then I said to bring her back in 2 weeks and we'll just see where she's at in her cycle. At that point in time, she had a 46 millimeter follicle. At this point in the process, we were trying to get a feel for her normal cycle and to see, because each mare, if you remember me talking, I had mentioned that each mare is individual in the fact that the size of ovary that size of follicle that they ovulate is very different, and it changes from mare to mare. And so I wanted to know what size follicle does Jule typically ovulate, because that is going to be key in helping us time when she's ready to go to the stallion. And since we were doing live cover, we kind of had we had a little bit of a wider window than you normally get, whereas if you were like breeding with AI, you have to really tighten it up. But we had a little bit of that luxury to be able to get it just within a few days, but we needed to know what size follicle she normally ovulates. And so when I scanned her on March 28th, she had a 46 millimeter follicle, but it was still very circular and had not started to become irregular or soften yet. And so then I had David bring her back 2 days later, 48 hours later, so that I could rescan that ovary. And if that follicle was still present, we could then measure it and kind of get a feel for if it was getting ready to ovulate or if she was going to go even bigger, because some, especially draft mares, can tend to go up into the 50s, 50 millimeters size of follicle that they'll ovulate off of. So, and when she's so big, we just didn't know. Well, 48 hours later, the follicle had started to soften and become hazy and looked like she was getting ready to ovulate. So we guesstimated she's ovulating around a 45-ish millimeter follicle, 46-ish millimeter follicle. So then we had that piece of information. And then from there, I had him bring her back 2 weeks later. Well, we did some math, and I had her bring him back on April 14th for the 4th scan. And this was when we figured out that she had a 37 millimeter follicle on her left ovary, and she still had pretty high uterine edema, which indicates she was in full-blown heat. But at a 37, we knew she still had a few days to grow before she was actually ready to ovulate and ready for the stallion. So I told, I had David, go ahead and take her up that Saturday to the stallion, and then she stayed for a few days with him. So
that we actually took her on Sunday.
Oh, that's right.
The last time we were here was Friday, and when she was in heat.
Yeah,
we were originally trying to get her over there in May, but then when Zoe dialed it in and said, look, we're in heat the 3rd week of April, we need to try to capture this ovulation, and if we miss it, this breeding cycle, and if we miss it, then we can still have
May. Yeah.
And so I went and called the breeder, and the breeder, Zoe said, can we get her over there Saturday or Sunday? The breeder said we can bring her Sunday. So we brought her over there on Sunday, and we are speculating that the follicle grows 3 millimeters.
On average, follicles will grow approximately 3 millimeters a day.
A day. So we were speculating, Zoe was speculating that she would ovulate on Monday, no later than Tuesday.
Yeah, somewhere in that range, according to our previous findings.
Right. So what we did is we got her over there on Sunday, and then the stallion ran her up the hill, and then he just lost all interest in her, and she didn't really even do anything. But as we went to check on Jule and make sure she was okay, the stallion came running over to her, and she immediately started winking her vulva and urinating, and I'm assuming that was estrogen that was coming out. The urine was full of estrogen.
Yeah, all those signs, the winking, urinating, all that, that's, she was in full-blown heat. Yeah, that's.
So the stallion got up behind her and smelled her, and then she emptied her bladder, and then he smelled, and then he curled his nose, curled his lip, and then she walked off with her vulva winking, and he didn't cover her while we were there. And so then Zoe said if she ovulates on Tuesday and she doesn't get covered or inseminated, what is the word?
Yeah, people say covered, yeah.
Well, that the egg could stay in the uterine horn for up to 36 hours. So Zoe said we need to leave her here through Wednesday, through Thursday, and then she'll be out of heat on Friday. So we made the decision to drop her off on Sunday and pick her up on Friday. So that brings us to today. We're here, and so if she was impregnated on Monday, this is day 15. If she was impregnated on Tuesday, it's day 14. And Zoe said that she can see as early as 14 days if she's actively pregnant or not. So we would like to ideally wait till tomorrow, which would be like day 15. But Zoe has got some obligations that she has to tend to, and she's unavailable for the rest of the week. And we have to do it before day 17. And can you explain why we have to do it before day 17?
Yeah, so right around day 19 of the cycle, the actual vesicle will implant into the uterine lining and makes it much more difficult to eliminate the pregnancy if there's a presence of twins, because in mares, twins is not always a good thing, and it's actually quite dangerous for her health as well as the babies. The chances of there being a successful twinning and surviving to birth, and for all three parties involved, is quite small. So anytime we see twins, we try to, if we can, eliminate one of the two and allow the better looking or maybe slightly larger follicle continue on, and hopefully she won't lose that one, and then she can go on and have a successful single pregnancy.
So now Zoe's going to do the ultrasound, and we're going to see, and we're hoping for good things.
Yeah, we're hoping that she's pregnant today, and if she is pregnant today, then the next time we'll see her will be on day 28 when we get to see her first heartbeat, him or her actually. So the baby's heartbeat we will look for on day 28.
Excellent. Where are you in her?
So this is all within the uterine body. That is her right ovary.
It looks like a follicle.
Yeah.
Oh, we're in her right, and we're looking on her left because, her left is where we're suspecting she's pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
But you're going to check her right first.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see?
I'm just trying to figure out.
Those are blood vessels right there at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this.
Right, yeah. I was looking at that too. Would that egg leave the left uterine body? Or it's in the uterine body, so it could go either way, right or left.
Mm-hmm.
Those look like...
Those are just multiple medium and small follicles there. So that one is probably, I don't know. Yeah, 37.
I wouldn't have thought she would have produced follicles if she was pregnant.
They can. They won't actually get a dominant follicle, but they can. Definitely.
Are you still in the right ovary?
That was over on the left. What I don't like is all of this fluid. So,
Is that edema saying she's in heat?
you see all that. So that all of that is swirling fluid. That's quite a bit. And that was not there before.
It's not very wet.
It was not there before. All that fluid, I mean.
Yeah. What is that an indicator of?
She could, what we were just talking about, she could have gotten an infection. You see it swirling?
Yeah. Is that in the left or in the right?
That was in her uterine body.
That was in the body itself.
Yeah. And that is a big one. So that's on her right ovary. It's a pretty decent sized follicle. It's probably in the 40s. Yeah, 45. See, there's her right uterine horn coming down, coming down, coming down. I don't like all that.
What are all those polyps right there?
That's the wall of her uterus. It's very, it looks angry to me. I'm not seeing any signs of a pregnancy. So, okay, Jule, she's gonna start to swat me. She's just like, hurry up. So when we were doing the pregnancy check for Jule, we saw that there was a lot of fluid inside of her uterus and her uterine lining looked really angry. I'm suspecting that probably the stallion deposited some, bacteria inside the uterus from his actual penis, and she now is getting a uterine infection. So we're gonna try to get her cleaned up and turned around so that we can hopefully still breed her this season. So I'm gonna actually go in sterilely now into the uterus, and we're gonna do what we call a uterine lavage, and then we are gonna also treat her with anti-inflammatories and antibiotics as well. So hopefully we can get her turned back around.
So what are we doing, Zoe, exactly?
I am currently trying to dilate her cervix a little bit here, because we are going to go in and flush the uterus.
So you're just trying to get that tube inserted where you want it, and then you leave it there and start flushing?
Yep. Exactly. It's just her cervix is very tight, so it's just taking me a minute. All right, guys, so we just got Jule flushed out. We're starting her on some systemic antibiotics. She'll be on IV antibiotics as well as intrauterine antibiotics. I put them in the flush. And hopefully she'll just be here for a couple of days for daily uterine flushes and continued antibiotics as well. So hopefully we'll get the infection cleared up so we can get her turned around and try to get her rebred this season.
So that didn't go as expected, but we will get her back on track with Dr. Zoe. So I appreciate you guys watching. As always, remember who you are. Be kind to those around you. Stand up for what you believe in.